The scourge of terror is not new to Israel. Since before our establishment and throughout our existence, we've been contending with this ongoing terror campaign. The Middle East and Africa are witnessing a broad expansion of terror throughout the region. Terror groups such as ISIS, Houthi militants, Hamas, and Hezbollah have a territorial dimension, which poses a particular challenge. Moreover, terror inspired by groups such as Al-Qaeda or ISIS has struck as far afield as Australia, Belgium, France, and elsewhere. If some thought at first that the so-called Arab Spring would give rise to a newly democratic Middle East, the vast spread of terror regimes throughout the region has been an alarming wake-up call. Israel is surrounded by terror groups on all of its frontiers, Hezbollah and Jabhat al-Nusra in the north, ISIS in the south, and Hamas in Gaza. Last year, we were starkly reminded of the magnitude of the threat we face when Hamas launched thousands of missiles against Israeli civilian targets, while tunneling under the border to strike at innocent Israeli civilians. Israel dealt with this huge security threat while abiding by the international law and in many cases going well beyond its requirements. Perhaps this explains why many democracies have expressed an interest in learning from our experience. One of the greatest challenges is the fact that terror groups often exploit and misuse the principles of international law in order to advance their aims. For example, in the 2014 Gaza war, Hamas turned the principles of international humanitarian law on their head in its attack on Israel, making massive use of human shields and launching deliberately attacks at innocent civilians from UN facilities, playgrounds, hospitals, mosques, and schools. Like a crime syndicate, Middle Eastern terrorism would be nothing without its godfather, Iran. Iran, empowered in the wake of its agreement with the P5+1, has made no secret of its intention to use the sanctions relief to expand its support for terror, especially for terror proxies in the region and in the world. To defeat this terror threat, the moderate states in the Middle East must act together in confronting extremism and in addressing its root causes: absence of democracy and rule of law, absence of women's rights, and the lack of education towards tolerance. Palestinian society, where Hamas and other terror groups maintain strong support, exemplifies the effect of education towards violence and extremism. Any society in which public squares are named for mass murderers and children are encouraged to become shaheeds, basically, will be fertile ground for extremism and terrorism. Mr. President, terror has two main goals: to kill and to dispirit. Thus, of the many things needed to defeat terror, one thing in particular stands out: clarity of purpose and clarity of moral conviction. United, the democratic world is capable of defeating the tidal wave of terror sweeping the Middle East and threatening the international community at large. To do so effectively, international norms and law need to be adapted to the changing nature of the 21st century battlefield, and especially to the unique challenges that arise in conflicts against rivals, and deliberately blur the distinction between military personnel and non-combatants. In this regard, Israel is eager to continue playing an active role in the work of the UN bodies, international counter-terror strategy. The fight of democracies against terror will always involve a balancing act between civil liberties and national security. Israel has been contending for decades with these dilemmas and has succeeded in protecting its civilians from terrorism while obeying the rule of law. All countries facing threat of terror today are dealing with similar challenges. As Israel has learned in its own prolonged campaign against our ability to defeat terror, terror lies on our reverence of the sanctity of human life and our fierce conviction to do battle with any all who strive to defile it, even when they cynically try to use our principles against us. It is this conviction, ladies and gentlemen, which ultimately ensure that the democratic world will prevail. Thank you.